So I have been reflecting on how loud and fast the world feels right now, and honestly, I don't think we're meant to live this way. Stress. If you've listened to any of my other videos, you know that I've recently moved from London to Portugal. But whilst I was still living in London, I started 3 daily habits that actually really helped me to stay grounded. And trust me, this is after so much trial and error, dealing with being overstimulated and a really sensitive soul living in a crazy busy place. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, or if you're easily overstimulated like I am, and you feel like you don't have specific daily things that you can do to kind of come back to a space of stillness, of feeling grounded, then these are 3 things, simple things that you can do to invite a little bit of calm into your day. So usually mid-afternoon is when it's basically impossible for me to work, and I like to get a little bit creative, either making a matcha, hojita latte, or having a little tea ceremony to kind of reset in the afternoon. Now, doing this slowly and intentionally is something I find quite challenging, and I've been working on. I'm a bit of a multitasker, and I find it really hard just to do one thing at a time. I'm always cooking and watching TV, or reading and listening to music, so I'm often distracted when I'm preparing food and drink. So I made a promise to myself to chill out and do this a little bit more intentionally, taking it slowly, focusing on each sensory aspect of the task, bringing myself back into the present moment, doing something physical with my hands, and it really gives me that feeling of gratitude, feeling thankful for the thing that I'm doing, and also a break from any mental work-based activity that I'm doing. This is like the little milk frother that I used. I haven't actually used it yet. This is my first time. I had one from Hotel Chocolat when I was living in London, but I just bought this one. It's called Create, and I've just washed it, so let's see how it goes. Just basically the only fresh milk that I can find in the supermarket here in Portugal. They have a lot of like cartoned milk, but this one is refrigerated, so I'm gonna use this. So right now I'm waiting patiently for the milk frother, and this is kind of what I mean when I'm thinking about doing something slowly and ritualistically. So I'm going to show you a little bit outside of my kitchen windows while I wait, because that's what I usually do. I head over and I just stare out the window until things are ready, and really helps ground myself in the present moment. I can see what people are up to, I can see what the weather's like. Okay, so this is my little matcha setup. I have my frothed milk here in this Create frother, which seems to have worked well. I have some hot water, well, kind of 60, 70 degree temperature water in here. It's been sitting for a while, so it's cooled down. This is my beautiful matcha bowl and whisk, which I love so much and bought in Japan. And then this is the matcha that I am using. And I bought this matcha in Japan when I was visiting my sister who lives there. And actually when I bought this, the lady who sold it to me was the company owner of this matcha brand. And she told me that at the time she had signed a deal with Gales to supply all of the matcha green tea for Gales in the UK. So if you've had a matcha at Gales, then it's probably this brand of matcha. And I absolutely love this matcha. For me, it has like the vibrancy, the taste. I love the kind of bitterness of matcha, and I find this one to be perfect. I've tried at least 20. This one is my favorite so far, which is kind of a shame because it's from Japan. I haven't looked whether you can source it here. Maybe you can. And I just find this part of my day really important for taking a reset. I love doing something with my hands when I've been mentally working a lot. And so it's perfect to like, really create this matcha paste and then pour the drink and have it ready. And I think it's really important for me that this is a daily thing. I notice that if I don't do it in a day, then I've definitely not had like the break that I need. Often I will do this around mid-afternoon, sometimes earlier. It's when that slump comes, when I don't really feel like doing anything. And it's really good for me to have that break from the mental stuff. I don't always drink matcha. Sometimes I drink hojicha latte, which basically is another form of green tea, but it's roasted and made into a powder, and then you can create a latte from that. In Japan, it's quite popular. I think it's starting to become more well known around the world as well, but if you can get hold of a hojicha latte or the powder anywhere, I know there's some places in London that sell it, some like Japanese cafes. It's just delicious, and it's also better for the afternoon. I think it's lower in whatever is like the caffeinated element of the drink, so sometimes it can, matcha is better for the earlier times of day and hojicha better for the afternoon. Sometimes it just depends how I feel, what I feel like tasting. And sometimes I also do a tea ceremony, which I'll be sharing a little bit more about as well. So let's do it. Let's make the matcha. Perfect matcha latte. Look at the color. Oh my god. Oh my god. And I love drinking it. Kind of like a little bit less than hot in one of these glasses, and I feel the warmth on my hands, and it's so good, especially as it gets a little bit colder here in Portugal. The autumn is coming. I love this little pick-me-up. It always helps me to really focus in the afternoon, and I just love it. I love it, I love it, I love it. And the color has to be one of the best colors on this planet. So the second thing I do every day is walking slowly, anywhere, to the park, to the water, and sitting for at least 10 minutes. So this one really depends on where you live, but I already moved to Portugal, which adds a bit of a chill and slow vibes to my life anyway. But even when I was living in London, in the city, I could walk for an hour and be entertained and stimulated along the way. And in both places, there's always something going on that means the walk feels inspiring. And in my opinion, no matter where you live, it's not necessarily about how far you walk, but how you walk, how much presence you can bring into those moments of walking. And I used to rush around the city in London like a headless chicken. I'd walk at 1,000 miles per hour for no real reason, and I would be frustrated by anybody that wasn't doing that. And I remember sometimes whenever I'd walk with my mum when I was younger, anywhere she would stop and kind of like wonder at something, the buildings, the wildlife, the people, I would be so frustrated, and I'd be like, you can walk and look, mum, you don't have to stop. And that was kind of my attitude. Like, I just didn't get it. But when my body kind of broke a few years ago, my whole approach to life started shifting. And I realized that this rushing was really adding to my nervous system dysregulation, and also that it was a choice for me. And even though I knew it was a choice, I didn't know how to slow myself down. I didn't know how to replicate my mum's wonder at things. It was like my body was on autopilot and I kind of had no control. And then one day I decided to switch to barefoot shoes for a while, and I noticed you can feel everything in these shoes. You can feel every part of the ground and whatever is underneath your feet. And I really like this. I realized that if I focused on the articulation of the sole on the ground and what I could feel underneath, I became present when I was walking. And I was no longer really able to rush because I wouldn't be able to feel that articulation if I did rush. So now whenever I walk, however far I walk, even if it's just around the house or wearing barefoot shoes, I make sure that I'm coming back to focusing on my feet if I'm feeling rushed. And I take deep breaths and I go slowly. And I make walking part of my leisure time, and it's something that isn't just for me to get somewhere, it's something for me to come back to my body, for me to slow down, for me to kind of be in the nature, to notice what I'm hearing and seeing and feeling. I love it here, it's my favorite. Blue skies is sunny today. And of course, walking with good company and with friends in beautiful places is also an amazing way to do this. Walking. So the third thing I do every day is stretching. I know, you've all seen the yoga girlies out there posting their super intense practice, and believe me, I have been there. But this isn't really what I'm talking about here. For a long time, I did try desperately to build a long kind of daily yoga practice, and because I'm a pretty 100% all-in human, I even did a 3-week yoga teacher training in the Maldives. Amazing place to try it. Amazing place to try and bolster my motivation, but it didn't work because if I'm honest, it's because yoga, at least in the way that I've practiced, is not actually my favorite thing. And as soon as I put a rigid structure or beliefs onto pretty much anything, like I'm gonna do this every day for X amount of time, I basically just never do it. Or I'd have a few good days of practicing and then I wouldn't touch my mat again for ages. And I was always thinking that it was because I didn't have a nice space to practice at home, that I needed to kind of go to a studio or have a studio at home. So I even made space in my apartment and then never practiced. And then I spent a few months traveling and decided to write some goals. And when I was thinking about physical health and fitness, I realized I hadn't really defined the purpose or the why of doing yoga practice. I was just kind of copying other people's practice, hoping that I'd feel something. I guess maybe I hoped for mental clarity, some stillness and relief from crazy thoughts. But it never really worked for me. Whole other story. But I realized what I really wanted was to, number one, increase my flexibility so that my body felt supple and mobile. And number two, have a quick, simple way of coming back into my body that I could do anywhere without any equipment. And number three, to not feel like I was exercising when building in stillness and stability mentally. So I was in Tokyo last December visiting my sister, and there was just enough space in my tiny, tiny Airbnb floor to stretch. And I started doing it with no structure and no framework. Just a promise that I'd start with cat-cow and then go with the flow, depending on whatever my body felt like. And I do use positions from my yin yoga teaching, but I always just check in with my body and see what feels right for how long. I let myself breathe into a stretch. I notice if I'm holding my breath or I'm clenching my jaw or I feel irritated when I'm doing it. And I don't do anything differently, I just notice it. And reframing this to kind of trusting my body as to what it needs and to how long it needs in each position, rather than doing a rigid schedule or having like a structure for a yoga practice every day, has really transformed my approach to moving my body. And it's not the only exercise I do, but it's my favorite part of the day, and it's transformed my bedtime routine, which is usually when I do it. And now I do this for however long I feel like every night. Usually it's about 10 or 15 minutes. And if I don't, or I forget, or I'm busy, I don't make myself feel like a terrible human being for doing it. I just say oopsie and do it the day after or the day after. But most of the time, because there are no rules and rigid structure around it, I tend to do it every night and I love it and it helps me sleep better. Little bedtime stretching routine with some incense, and this one is my absolute favorite and it smells so good. And I found this stone in the Maldives. You can see that I've been using it, it's burnt. But I found it and it had this perfect hole in it, so I use this as my incense holder. And usually I just like to, let me get my lighter. Just taking a few deep breaths, coming back into my body before I stretch feels so good, because if I don't know, sometimes I'm still in my mind while I'm stretching, so it's kind of nice just to connect with my body and then start stretching. So yeah, I'll just take a few deep breaths. Now I'm gonna stretch.
I am paid to exist. Abundance on my list. Every breath that I take is the proof of my gift. What I see seeks me back. Every dream's on track. I am like I am whole.
So yeah, those are the 3 things that I do every day or almost every day to keep myself just a little bit more grounded in the world. And honestly, it feels like it's getting louder and faster by the second. And for me, it's not about being perfect or building a rigid self-care routine that becomes another kind of item on the to-do list. It's about weaving small, meaningful moments that remind me that I have a body, that I have breath, that I have agency, even just for a few minutes, whether it's stretching out my hips, walking slowly to the park and actually feeling my feet, or pouring a cup of tea or making a matcha without spilling it all over myself. And these are tiny, ordinary acts, but they're like anchors for me in my life. They provide my day with structure, they provide my day with discipline, and you don't need a perfect space or expensive stuff or hours of free time. You just need a few minutes several times a day to come back to yourself, and that's it. So maybe try one of these things tomorrow and see how you feel, or let me know if there's any other things that you do every day that transform your day, that help you to stay grounded and still in this crazy world. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourself. Sending love.